going to be turning a part of my office into an urban jungle because working from home, it's so important to have a space that just feels cozy and relaxed and that doesn't bring you stress. So I've had this bookshelf that is great, but is honestly a big eyesore right now and has served as kind of a dumping grounds for all of my random things. So I'm going to be turning it into a plant growth station, and honestly I need a lot more storage for my embarrassingly large antique glass collection. So let's get started. So here's what the situation is currently. It really needs an update, and I think we can turn this from old storage to a true feature of my office. Now that I've finally committed to this, I'm very excited, but everything in here must go so I can give it a good clean and start with a fresh palette. And hopefully I have room for all of these things in my closet, but we won't talk about that. Let's talk about cleaning, yes. It gets so dusty here in Portland, and I have a personal vendetta against dust, so it feels so good to know that this is now so clean. Now that this space is all cleared off, I'm hit with a little bit of blank page syndrome. So I head over to Pinterest to create a mood board. Looking over some of these glass collections is really making me nervous because I'm noticing that some of these collections are absolutely gorgeous, but the photos just don't do them justice. After some combing through and analyzing, I'm noticing a pattern though. The collections that have great lighting in and outside of the case and that have tons of variability on the shelf look the best, with my favorite being this one from Apartment Therapy that I'm just absolutely obsessed with. With that in mind, I hope the combo of plants and glass will look spectacular, but I have one small problem, and that's that plants generally do not like living on a bookcase. Luckily, I knew that you could buy grow lights that simulated the sun, but I did not know that you can buy them in these very convenient light strips that you can hang just about anywhere for around $20. I also did not know if they were going to be USB powered or if they would have the 120 volt plug, so I went ahead and bought a white power cable that has both options available. That's what I'm talking about. I really like the power strip that I bought because not only is it going to blend in with my wall, but it has 4 USB slots and it has this really nice on and off switch. I also really appreciate the fact that they left plenty of space between the 120 volt plug slots so that, you can actually plug things next to each other. But I digress. Let's talk about these grow light strips. These are from Thank, and reasonable price aside, I'm very impressed with these as a whole. These are full spectrum lights, which is what your plants need. They are dimmable, and you can also put them on a timer so you can kind of set and forget your plant care. It is also important to note that they do not have UV rays, so if you're paranoid about sun exposure like I am, you can rest easy knowing that you're not going to bake in your office. These came with both adhesive strips and screws, so you can choose how you want to hang them, which is really nice. And it's 2 light strips per cable, so you're not going to be taking up a whole power strip if you want to use multiple sets like I am. However, because of this design, I did have a little bit of trouble wrangling the cords, which we'll see in a second. They also came with just the USB cable, but they included a plug adapter just in case. Like, these guys really thought of everything here. With a couple of these light strips set up and without going full cord wrangler yet, I'm getting a small picture of what this is going to look like and I'm getting hyped. Lighting truly makes such a big difference, and even though the cords are itching at me, I've decided to give into the dopamine and start filling these shelves. I know this is the most random selection of books on the planet, but I'm going more for color coordination here because my ultimate goal is to have a rainbow looking bookcase. So to pair with my red books, I have my small collection of ruby red bubble glass that is probably one of my favorite patterns. I want to stay true to my initial urban jungle concept, so I'm interspersing plants in here as much as possible. And to pair with my bubble glass, I'm putting my very cute burro's tail or donkey's tail sedum. Following the rainbow idea, I think I want to showcase some of my pink glass collection next to my red to have some continuity. However, I'm almost wondering if contrast between colors is better than having the colors follow in a straight rainbow, so I'm going to do some experimenting and see what I like. Now that I've done the first shelf, I'm going to start the second one off by building around this gorgeous plant, nicknamed the Moonlight Plant because it has this really cool silvery sheen on its leaves. I'm also using this as an opportunity to incorporate some of my cake and dessert platters in here, but to function as a water tray for my plants. Every single plant in my house has a vintage plate, platter, or pie pan underneath it just because they're so inexpensive to thrift and they're just gorgeous. Since I'm wanting to try some contrasting colors here, one of my favorite color combos is orange and teal, so I'm starting out with a blue book on top and incorporating some of my beautiful amber glass. And then I have the bottom half of a candy dish here, and this is in the pattern Moon and Stars, which I thought would look great next to my Flora Gold sugar dish. I really want to emphasize contrast here, so I'm styling in a few books and adding in the warmth of this little jewelry box because I want to add in some of my teal pieces to contrast with the gold. These candle holders are the essence of Art Deco and were made in the 30s, and I am obsessed. Several months ago I found this dish at a thrift store and thought that there was no way with that color that it was antique, so I promptly filled it with this striped string of pearls plant, but I think it's just lovely. Now here's a sneak peek at all of the work that we've done so far, and it's really starting to come together. But the cord wrangler in me can take it no more and must take action before these cords become a giant mess. So I bought some of these white cord organizers to help with this. These are one of those things that I feel like I can never have enough of. I swear I've bought at least 30 or 40 of these things and I always find a way to use them. This is where things start getting a little hairy. Like I mentioned earlier, because of the design where it's 2 cables that condense down to 1, if you have a similar situation, there's always going to be one cord that is longer, so I ended up having to use a few organizers per light unit to hide the cords. It was very hard to film and get those angles, so apologies there, but now that I have some of these cord organizers left over, I know just the perfect place to put these. For little items like this, I love to put them in my IKEA pegboard setup, so I always remember that I have them on hand. Next up is the third and final shelf. I'd be remiss if I didn't use this as an opportunity to showcase my Animal Crossing Switch that I absolutely did not need but was well worth the money just for the cuteness. Because the Switch is teal themed, I think some of my cobalt blue teacups can kind of tie this whole theme together and complement each other. Now I definitely feel like I need a plant to balance this out, so I'm using this plant nicknamed the Raven plant for its very dark, almost black and striking leaves. I also think my black velvet alocasia will look stunning next to the Raven plant and paired with my green Miss America plate. And while I think that it does look great and I love how the colors are playing off of each other, I think we need a more droopy plant in front to fill that empty space at the bottom and add some depth. And here's another sneak peek of what's happened so far, and while I'm very happy with it, I don't think that we've accomplished the urban jungle feeling yet, and I want to make sure that I deliver on that, so it's time for more plants. I've had this mid-century table just kind of floating around my home waiting for a really good spot to put it, and honestly, this is its final resting place. It's perfect. So I'm flanking the sides of the table with a couple of my plants to give some dimension, and I'm going to fill the top of the table with some of my smaller plants. Believe it or not, this snake plant is about 5 years old and survived a 5-day-long move in a pod across the country and is basically indestructible. Now to really complete the vibe, I feel like we not only need a lot of plants, but we need some weird plants. It doesn't feel like the jungle unless there's some colorful, alien-looking plants, which is why I'm using so many purple plants here. I'm spicing it up by adding this cool blue spiky succulent plant and finishing it off with one of my favorite plants, which is an alocasia nicknamed Tiny Dancer. It looks very alien, and the bigger that it gets, the more that it looks like it's actually dancing. And with all that set up, I actually still have one plant left that I need to place, and I think it will create a lot of balance if I add it on the left side of my desk setup. Now with this massive amount of plants, watering is going to be a bit of a challenge, so I'm going to set up a little plant watering station that I can pop plants in and out of, starting with my lovely pothos plant that hangs on one of my floating shelves and just adds so much life to my space. To do this, instead of having a pitcher that I can pour over plants, I'm going to have a bowl that I can dunk plants in and water from the bottom. This makes sure that the plant truly gets the hydration that it needs and doesn't get overwatered at the same time. I'm just giving this a good clean and some fresh water for my plants, and I'm going to set it up on a small table that I have in my office. Now, whenever I know that my plants are thirsty, I can just turn around and give them a quick bath. Sometimes you can even see the water level decreasing very quickly, and it's kind of amazing to watch. This is also a good time to cut off any yellow or brown leaves. It not only makes your plant look good, but it also helps because the plant doesn't have to divert any more energy to it. Like a bad axe, just cut it off. And with my bookshelf finished and my plant watering station set up, I can now show you the final look, and I really hope that you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it.